So, what are my responsibilities as a safety manager? Well, if you've ever wondered that, you're in the right place. You're not alone. Maybe you're new to safety. Maybe you're new to your company. Maybe you're just new to safety management. It's very important that we clarify what your responsibilities are as a new safety manager. And this seems like it should be simple, but people make it very complicated. I personally have made it too complicated in the past. So, in this episode, I want to simplify exactly what you need to know as a safety manager, what you need to take ownership of, and where you need to focus your time and energy in order to make the biggest impact on your job. So, let's dive in. Well, hey, friend, this is David Sawyer. I'm glad to be talking to you this morning. I think this is going to be a topic that you're going to find really helpful. It's definitely something that I wish I knew when I started as a safety manager because I didn't know anything. I was starting blind. And everything I researched, I would learn about safety programs and safety topics, but I couldn't find a lot of information about how to actually be a complete safety manager. So I put this episode together in order to explain exactly what you need to know as a safety manager. Now, before I jump into the content, I wanted to tell you about something that will help you as a safety manager prepare your team for an unexpected OSHA visit. Did you know that most companies are not prepared if OSHA were to come and knock on the door? And statistically speaking, they will come and knock on the door. And most companies are reacting. They're in reaction mode and they're not prepared. If you go to my website, helpwithosha.com, you can download a free OSHA audit checklist. And in this checklist, I explain exactly what you need to know in order to prepare your team for an unexpected OSHA visit. It is a great tool. It's completely free. All you have to do is go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and you can access this checklist. And also included as a bonus is actually a video where I explain the key parts in the checklist so that you can really unpack what you need to do to prepare your team. You want to get in a room with your management and with your leadership and with your receptionist and with different people that are going to play really important roles in the event of an OSHA inspection. Do that today. It will save you a lot of stress. Now, let's talk about safety management responsibilities, right? This sounds like a really fun topic. Trust me, it's going to be helpful. The number one thing that you are responsible for as a safety manager is protecting employees. What that means is you're trying to prevent injuries from happening. Now, my tagline, if you go to my website, helpwithosha.com, you'll see my tagline is prevent accidents and avoid OSHA. It's pretty simple. As a safety manager, your job is to prevent accidents and to avoid OSHA citations. That's kind of filling out the rest of that. We're trying to avoid being penalized for not being in compliance. But there's a reason that's on the second end. Compliance is not your number one goal. Your number one goal is preventing people from getting hurt. So I want to explain this for a second because there's a difference between an injury and an incident. Okay? Hear me out on this. An injury is when someone gets hurt. There's been an injury. An incident is when something happens and someone could have got hurt, but they didn't. Meaning maybe it's property damage. Maybe it's a forklift that backs up into a stack of pallets and knocks them down. And man, those pallets, they almost creamed Ted, but they missed him, right? It was a near miss. Whew, it was close, but he's okay. That's an incident. Now, as a safety manager, it is really important that you have a reporting system to capture this information. So think of it like fishing with a big net. If I have multiple incidents, right, eventually they're going to lead to an accident. So if I have a forklift that keeps bumping into things, eventually it's going to bump into a person. And what we're trying to get people to do is to report when they have an incident, when they have a near miss, when they almost got hurt. And here's the challenging part. Most people don't want to do that. They just want to keep going on. They go, whoo, that was close. I'm glad it didn't happen to me. And then they move on. So we want to get a reporting system that, like a big net, throws out there and catches all those fish. So we want to get a net that's going to capture injuries, it's going to capture incidents, and it's going to help us manage where people are getting hurt. Because if we're going to prevent injuries, the number one thing we need to know is, where are people going to get hurt? So think about your facility. Think about past injuries, and think about what the hazards are that need to be controlled. As a safety manager, if you identify where the hazards are and you put corrective actions in place to prevent people from getting hurt, boom, you're doing your job. So preventing injuries is the number one thing, and a key to that is having a reporting process that captures data, that captures information, okay? Now, after you have the hazards, you know where the hazards are, you put corrective actions in place, then we're trying to teach or train our employees on how to do that job safely, right? This is how you operate a forklift so you don't bump into the pallets and almost take Ted out. So just as an example, we want to have training in place that's consistent and that people are taken in, right? They're not just sitting there and going through the steps, right? They're not just going through the motions. They're actually absorbing the training content. And then we go and we do inspections to verify that they have actually started implementing the training you've put in place. So just to date myself a little bit, back in the 80s, there was a president called Ronald Reagan, and he became famous for saying something called trust but verify. Trust but verify. You can punch that in your Google machine or in your AI, and it'll tell you all about it. Trust but verify. As a safety manager, we need to do something very similar. What we do and what you do as a busy safety manager, you train but verify. Train but verify. Never assume that people are actually going to do what you train them to do. There has to be a process of inspection to make sure it's being done. You have to get out on the floor. You have to spend time with the people. You have to build credibility by being on the floor with the people. So train but verify. That is one of the most important things you can do as a safety manager. Now, the next thing goes along with that idea. A safety manager needs to be a leader. So this should not be a job where you are just out there running around like a chihuahua, barking and yipping and fussing and complaining about everything. I want you to think for a minute about a manager that you have a lot of respect for. Who is somebody that you respect? Who's a mentor? Who's somebody that you say, man, they are a really class act. They're a leader. That's what you want to be on the floor, because you have to bridge the gap. In safety management, you have to bridge the gap between employees and leadership, meaning managers, supervisors, crew leaders. You have employees and you have management, supervisors, crew leaders. And with the employees, as a safety manager, they have to respect you. They have to find you credible, right? And they got to trust you. They got to trust that David or you have their best interest at heart. You're not out there with a big ruler trying to smack them on the hand to get them in trouble. You're not threatening to write them up every 2 minutes. You're working with them because you care about them. They have to feel like you care about them. Then they will trust you. Then they will respect you. And then they will follow you as a leader. And the same is true for the other half. The people that are already in leadership positions, they have to see you as somebody that cares, somebody that's credible, somebody that can be trusted, somebody that they can respect. Once you do that and you bridge the gap between employees and leadership, then and only then can you build a safety culture that is ingrained in the organization. Meaning, we want people to be looking out for each other. So it's not just safety walking around and enforcing, but it's actually employees they say, hey, that's the way we do it around here. We wear our safety glasses. We use lockout, tagout procedures. We don't block the fire extinguishers. We have company-specific actions and procedures that match the hazards with the company. Okay? So the very last thing that you're responsible for as a safety manager, and I have this last for a reason, because sometimes it gets put first, and it should not be put first. It is OSHA compliance. Compliance. In a previous life, I was a compliance director. That was my title. And I hated it. Can you guess why? I hate the idea of compliance. It just sounds like I'm following a bunch of rules for the sake of following rules. And that is not what a safety manager is. A safety manager isn't somebody there to just check the boxes and to follow the rules. Our job is to make sure we protect our workers. We want them to go home at the end of the day with 10 fingers and 10 toes. We want them to go home exactly the way they came in. Maybe just a little bit more tired and hopefully with some money in their pocket. But compliance is what OSHA puts in place as a low bar. You should be hitting OSHA compliance without really trying. Safety management is higher. A safety culture is higher. A safety management system, a total safety management system, is much more effective than just being in compliance. You should just be in compliance. That should not be as hard as it sounds. So, I've got one of these books. You might have never seen one of these. Nowadays, everything's done online or on your phone, but the OSHA regulations are important. But there's also a lot of helpful resources online. Department of Labor has helpful resources. It's not that compliance isn't important. It's that you don't want the tail wagging the dog. Meaning, I don't want to look at, say, what do I have to do? That's the question I can't stand. As a safety coach, when I go into work with a company, if I'm doing a mock OSHA audit or I'm working with a company for the first time, a big red flag goes up when I have somebody in leadership say, well, David, what are we required to do? Because all you're saying is, what's the bare minimum? Don't worry about the bare minimum. Protect your workers, prevent accidents, and that will make you avoid OSHA. That's the way to deal with it. Now, if you found this video helpful, I have a really beneficial course. It's called Safety Starting Point. Safety Starting Point is the safety starting point that I wish I had when I was a new safety manager. I walk you through exactly everything you need to know on how to be a successful safety manager. And more than that, how to implement a total safety management system at your company. Now, I have this course included in my stress-free safety coaching community. It's a membership group that's it's exclusive. It's just for people that can apply and get in, but I'm accepting applications for the membership right now. You can go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and you can apply to join the stress-free safety coaching community. It is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. But in there, I have the course, Safety Starting Point. It's a great way to get interested or to get knowledgeable about what you need to do to build a full safety management system. I welcome applications. Sign up for it today, and hopefully you can get into the group. Now, until we talk again, do everything you can to keep your people safe because no one should get hurt at work.